Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley. This is another church in Rutland. This is the Church of St Mary in Ashwell. It's essentially a 12th century nave that has then had a 13th century, 14th century aisles attached. 14th century work has been done, and it has eventually, like so many parish churches, reached its final form in the 19th century with a massive Victorian restoration. In many ways, it's a fairly ordinary medieval parish church, but of course, ordinary medieval parish church means there's all kinds of exciting historic things inside it. So we'll have a look around and see what we can see. As usual, then we start at the west end, and you can see we have this enormous great font here. I suspect it's Victorian, but very big and chunky, with its cover, which is suspended from the ceiling. They're basically the counterweight, which means that it can be lifted and put down again very, very easily. You can see we have here the south aisle with its 14th century polygonal columns, and then the north with its 13th century round ones. Bit gloomy in here, but that's often the case with churches that have been heavily Victorianised. There's a lot of stained glass, there's quite a lot of trees around the building, so we'll have to bear with the gloominess. Here is the old clock. Now this clock is, what's the date here? This stood unattended on the clock floor of the tower since 1890, and it's probable. It probably contains bits of several clocks, some bits going back to the 18th century, some 19th century, and it's just been reassembled and altered and changed over time. Well, here we are, there's the north aisle. We have the organ at the east end there, and there is the pulpit. The organ sits in what would have been a side chapel, and the Reformation, these things generally go out of use. There's no need to have multiple masses being said in the same building, and communion is communion. It's a service for people to come to. It's not a sacrifice to the living and dead, and therefore you don't need more than one table. There are records of rectors going all the way back to 1244, and it is one of these places where there doesn't seem to be an ejection in 1662. Most churches there wasn't, but we have here a nice Victorian window. We've got the Virgin Child in the middle, and then we've got excuse me, hay fever. I've got hay fever, but anyway, we've got St Cecilia on one side and St Agnes on the other. Pulpit. And very Victorian here. Thorough restoration at the time. There's this low screen, never had a top end, but it does screen off the chancel. And we proceed into the chancel now. And this is largely 13th century with some 14th century work. It's a lovely, what's called reticulated tracery. It's from Bretarius, a net, and you can see it has a net-like effect at the top there. Sedilia are 14th century, and as we look at the sedilia, what we see is, no, this is Victorian restoration, but anyway, what we have is ballflower, very important ballflower. And we have a double piscina. That definitely is medieval, is 14th century. You've got double piscina, you've got two drains, so it's not just a shelf one side, they're both piscinae, and one was for washing out the mass vessels, the other for the priest to wash his hands, because that which had been in contact with the consecrated elements was holy. On the other side we have the Easter sepulchre. As I explained before, the Easter sepulchre is part of the Easter period ceremonial, that you would have the consecrated host would be buried here. And we've got these little niches and this one here, they originally had little figures in them, I expect, and it had been painted. And of course, after the Reformation, it falls out of use because the ceremonial falls out of use. They don't do it anymore. The South Chapel here. Let's go through into the South Chapel. We have Victorian windows, but we have here a very nice, this is an incised alabaster slab, and they're normally 15th century, as this one certainly is, given the clothes. And it's essentially your cheap version of or cheaper version of having a full effigy. You get a slab and you just get this sort of portrait carved in the top. Now here we have a wooden knight. He is probably 13th, maybe 14th century. He is wooden effigies used to be quite common. You can still find more of them around than most people think, but they do suffer from woodworm. And so you get woodworm, that's it. Or it starts to rot away. And that's the problem, is the lack of maintenance with these destroyed most of them. Occasionally someone would pinch one for firewood, but that was the exception rather than the rule. We go back out again into the chancel. Just see we have the sun out for a little bit, and you can see how the light falls through the window when the sun's out. Nice reredos. The reredos here has the often thought of IHS. We can see here. So is it IHC? No, it is Greek, and it is yes for Jesus. So on the other side you've got Christos. So it's Jesus Christ. And then we have in the middle, you've got angels, and there's our Lord flanked by Moses and Elijah. So it's representing the Transfiguration. And then we turn around and we look all the way west, and we've got that great chunky font in the middle there. So it is an unusual building in some ways. In other ways, the shape is very normal. Nice reticulated tracery there. There's a piscina which shows there's a side altar here, and in front here we have the little side chapel and the screen, and then you've got the memorial chapel behind him. We've got this nice Victorian brass lectern. So that most of the inside here. And we proceed to the west. We have the war memorial. Little sort of lounge area at the back with books and things. And here we have, yes, the war memorial. And you've got Gunner Cecil Newton Brewster, Royal Artillery, killed at Dunkirk. And so that is the inside here. Take a bit more slowly on that. At Ashwell in Rutland. So we'll look outside, shall we? And so we're outside here now at Ashwell, and you can see here behind me this big chunky 13th century tower, which is striped. It's this use of alternating bands of here limestone and ironstone, and as we go around we'll see how that's used to very great effect in the decorative scheme of this building. So let's have a look around the outside and see again what we can see. And so as I said, there's a Victorian restoration here, and you can see that particularly in the porch and in the pyramidal cap on the tower. A good number of Victorians, following Pugin I believe, said, well, these towers would originally have had some kind of roof behind the battlements, behind the parapet, rather than a flat roof. And so they put in these pyramidal roofs. And there's a lot of 14th century work here. You can see here's the chapel, and yes, you've had this bigger window inserted, but the original windows, that 14th century one there. and this one here with a tracery, that's 14th century. You can see the cornice there is ballflower, a joyful life, and here we have more of that stripy decoration, again with a ballflower cornice part way up, so that tells us that is 14th century, and so probably the tower is 2 and not 13th, because that's very 14th. Again, this and this limestone is expensive, so they have put a lot of money into this. And here we have this big window with a reticular tracery, and you can see all on the outside ballflowers. Ballflowers. There's been some Victorian restoration, but the ballflower motif is original. It's nothing you can find on Hereford Cathedral. At Hereford Cathedral, I believe, has more ballflower than any other building. That, I suspect, is the old parsonage over there through that door. And how do we get round the side here? I think we have to go round through here next to this big tank, big oil tank. See these memorials here. So we're trying to get round the west end, round the tower, and this lower bit is all limestone. And here we go. A good look at. That's what I wanted to get a good look at how the stripy work goes. You can see the difference in terms of how soft the stone is. That you've got the ironstone is very soft, it's worn away, and the limestone is harder, so it hasn't. So what originally would have been a two-dimensional effect is now a three-dimensional one. And you can just see there the outline of where a window used to be, but isn't anymore. This is the north side gate, and again we've got this nice stonework. That gate of course goes and then down to the road. That's not where you park. North door, usable but not used. They normally aren't. And here we have more ballflower. So that's what's now the organ chamber and vestry would originally have been somebody's very smart chapel. Because you don't put that amount of ballflower on something if it's not important to you. And it's ornament. Now we have the Victorian lich gate. So there we have that ballflower. Ballflower everywhere. And more stripy stonework here at the east end, and more ballflower. It has been said that Hereford Cathedral has more ballflower than anywhere else in England. But there's that nice reticulated window. It obviously is Victorian, but very much in the style of the period that it would have been originally. So very well done, really. And again, that stripy tower and the stripy chancel, because stripes. It's a very, very interesting building. Definitely a bit eccentric and unique, and it's one of the places I think the outside perhaps is a bit more interesting than the inside. The inside's not uninteresting. You've just got all this strangeness going on the outside that makes it that much more exciting. So there we have it, St Mary's, Ashwell. So St Mary's, Ashwell. I know I'm slightly in the shadow, but quite frankly, it's the church you want to see, isn't it? So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.